You want to know the strangest thing about living alone in New York City? It is the noise. Not the noise itself. You expected the noise. Everyone expects the noise. The sirens and the traffic and the subway under your feet at 2 a.m. and the neighbors above you who apparently move furniture exclusively between midnight and 3 in the morning. You expected all of that. And the noise is fine. The noise is the city doing what cities do. The strange thing is what the noise does to the silence inside your apartment. You are 26 years old. You are from a city in India where your mother's cooking smell filled every room and your father's voice carried through walls, and your younger brother's music was a constant low frequency presence in your life from the moment you woke up until you went to sleep. You grew up inside noise that meant people. You grew up never once having to think about the quality of the quiet because the quiet never lasted long enough to have a quality. It has been 7 months since you landed at JFK with two suitcases and a job offer, and the specific, terrifying excitement of someone who has wanted this for years and is now standing inside the wanting with no roadmap for what comes next. Tonight is a Tuesday. You have eaten dinner, dal and rice that you made yourself, because the restaurant that does it right is 40 minutes away, and Tuesday night is not a 40-minute journey night. You are sitting at the table in your apartment in Jackson Heights, Queens, which is a good apartment, a genuinely good apartment. And outside your window, New York is being New York, enormous and electric and completely indifferent. And you have not spoken to another human being in person since yesterday morning. That is the strange thing, not the noise, the specific quality of silence inside the noise. The loneliness that does not announce itself loudly, but sits very quietly in the corner of every room and is always there when you look. Let me tell you about the life you have built here, because it is a real life, genuinely real, genuinely good in many ways. And the loneliness inside it does not cancel out the good parts. They exist simultaneously, and that is important to understand. You have a job at a tech company in Midtown. Good work, interesting problems, colleagues who are perfectly pleasant and with whom you talk about the work and sometimes about where to get lunch and very occasionally about something that matters. The work is the best part of most days. In the work, you are fully yourself, competent, present, engaged. In the work, nobody notices that you are 7 months from home because the work does not care where you are from, only what you can do. You have learned the subway, all of it, the lines, the transfers, the specific etiquette of a New York subway car, which is elaborate and unspoken and completely consistent, and which took you 3 months to absorb fully. You navigate this city now with the efficiency of someone who belongs here, even when the feeling of belonging has not fully arrived. You have a grocery store you like, a laundromat 2 blocks away, where the owner's daughter does her homework at the back table every Saturday, and once asked you to help her with a maths problem, and you did. And it was one of the best 20 minutes of your month. You have a park where you go on Sunday mornings when the weather allows and sit on a bench and read and watch the city move around you. You have a life, a real, functional, growing life. And some nights, not all nights, but some, you sit at the table after dinner and the apartment is quiet and the city is loud outside. And the life you have feels like a house you have built correctly in every structural detail and have not yet figured out how to live in. Sunday, 7 p.m. The call connects. Your mother's face fills the screen. She is in the kitchen. She is always in the kitchen for the Sunday call, which you have realized over 7 months is not coincidence. The kitchen is where she is most herself, and she wants to be most herself when she talks to you. She says, "You look thin." You say, "I am not thin. I am exactly the same." She says, "You look thin and tired." You say, "I am a little tired. Work has been busy." She says, "Are you eating properly? Not just the dal from the packet, actual food." You say, "I cook. I made dal and rice tonight, actually." She says, "Dal and rice is not a meal. Dal and rice is a side dish." What was the main? You look at your plate. You say the dal was quite substantial. She makes a sound that communicates without words. Everything she thinks about substantial dal as a main course. You talk for 40 minutes. She tells you about your brother's new job and your father's knee, which has been a problem since March, and the neighbor's daughter who got married last week in a ceremony Your mother describes in detail that expands with each sentence until you have a complete picture of a wedding you were not at. You tell her about work, about a project that went well, about the park on Sunday mornings. You do not tell her about Tuesday nights and the quality of the silence because she will worry, and her worrying from that distance is harder than the silence itself. Near the end of the call, she says, "Do you have friends there? People you spend time with?" You say, "I am making them. It takes time." She says, "It takes time, but it happens." Your uncle was in London for 2 years before he had proper friends. Then he had too many, and your aunt complained he was never home. You say, "I will aim for that level." She laughs. Her laugh is the same through a phone screen as it is in person. Full, sudden, completely genuine. It fills the small apartment in Queens for a moment, and the apartment feels different for a moment, and then the call ends, and the apartment goes back to being what it is. You sit with the phone in your hand for a while after. The knock comes on a Sunday in month 5. You open the door. Your neighbor from apartment 4B is standing in the hallway, holding a plate covered in aluminum foil. You have seen her in the corridor approximately 12 times in 5 months. You have exchanged good morning and good evening, and once a brief conversation about the elevator being out of service. You do not know her name. She says, "I made too much food. My daughter was supposed to come and she canceled. Do you eat chicken?" You say yes. She says, "Good. Here." She hands you the plate. Then she says, "I'm Edie. I have lived here 31 years. You moved in 5 months ago, and I have been meaning to do this since month 2, but I kept forgetting, and then I felt bad about having forgotten, so I kept putting it off, which is a very stupid cycle, and I am breaking it today." You say, and you tell her your name. She says, "I know. It's on the mailbox. Are you going to invite me in, or are we doing this in the hallway?" You invite her in. Edie sits at your kitchen table and you make tea. She takes hers with a specific amount of milk that she communicates with the precision of someone who has been asked about their tea preferences many times and has the answer fully prepared. And she looks around your apartment with the frank appraisal of someone who is not being rude, just genuinely looking. She says, "You have done well with this space. When the last person lived here, it looked like a storage unit with a bed in it." You say, "Thank you. I tried to make it feel like somewhere." She says, "It feels like somewhere. Where are you from?" You tell her. She nods. She says, "I have a friend from there. 30 years ago, she moved 2 blocks from here. She still lives there. I will introduce you." You say, "You don't have to." She says, "I know I don't have to." That's the point. "How long have you been here?" You say, 5 months. She says, "And how is it?" You consider how to answer this. Then you say, "Honestly, it is everything I wanted it to be professionally. Personally, it is. I'm still figuring out the personally part." Edie nods slowly. She wraps both hands around her tea mug. She says, "New York takes time to open up to you. People think it is an unfriendly city, but it is not unfriendly. It is just busy. Everyone is managing something. But when it opens," she pauses. "When it opens completely. And then you cannot imagine being anywhere else." You say, "How long did it take you?" She says, 2 years, maybe 2.5. But I was 27 and very stubborn, and it took me longer than most." She finishes her tea. She stands up. She says, "Eat the chicken tonight, not tomorrow, tonight, and knock on my door sometime. I watch a program on Thursday evenings that is improved by company." She leaves. You look at the covered plate on your counter. You eat the chicken that night. It is the best thing you have eaten in 5 months. Not because it is extraordinary cooking, though it is very good cooking, but because someone made it and thought of you and carried it down a hallway and sat at your table and told you it takes 2 years and was honest about it, taking 2 years. And that honesty is the kindest thing anyone has given you since you arrived. You tell Arjun about Edie on Monday at lunch. Arjun has been in New York for 4 years. He came at 24 the way you came at 26. Alone, work visa, the specific cocktail of excitement and terror that is being young and foreign in a city that does not know you exist yet. He is the person at work you feel most yourself around, not because he is Indian, though that is part of it, the shorthand of shared reference points, the ability to make a joke without explaining the context, but because he has been where you are and has come out the other side, and the other side seems livable. Arjun listens to Edie's story. Then he says, "This is how it happens." You say, "What do you mean?" He says, "This is exactly how it happens. You do not make friends in New York the way you make friends at home, through proximity and time, and the slow accumulation of shared experience in a place you both grew up in. You make them through specific moments. Someone knocks on a door with food. Someone helps a kid with maths at a laundromat. Someone sits next to you on a subway and says something, and you talk for 6 stops and never see them again. But that conversation changes your day, and changing your day changes your week. And changing your week is how the city starts to feel like yours." You say, "How long before it felt like yours?" Arjun thinks about this seriously. He says, 18 months before I stopped feeling like a visitor, 2.5 years before it felt like home. And even now, 4 years in, there are days when someone says something or I go somewhere new and I feel the specific gap between knowing a place and belonging to it. You say, "Does the gap close?" He says, "It gets smaller." I don't think it closes completely, but smaller is enough. Smaller means you stop noticing it most days, and most days is enough. He picks up his sandwich. Then he says, "Go to Edie's Thursday program. Whatever it is, go." You say, "It might be something terrible." He says, "It might be. Go anyway." The terrible shared experience is how half the good friendships in this city started. You go on Thursday. It is a British baking competition program that Edie watches with the seriousness of a sports fan watching a championship match. You know nothing about baking. Edie explains the technical challenge with the patience of a person who has been watching this program for 9 seasons and considers herself an authority. By the third episode, you have opinions about the contestants, strong ones. Edie approves of your opinions. This is how it starts. It is month 7. Tonight is a Tuesday. The apartment is quiet. The city is loud outside. The dal and rice is on the table, and you have accepted that dal and rice as a main course is a choice you are making as a free adult, and your mother is not here to argue otherwise. But tonight is different from the Tuesday in the first minute of this story. Not dramatically different, not transformed, just slightly warmer. The apartment has the same walls and the same window and the same view of a city that does not know your name. But Edie's plate, washed and returned with a note that said thank you and gave your name spelled correctly, which she looked up on the mailbox again specifically to get right, is on your counter. And there is a Thursday program that you will watch again this week with opinions you have already started forming. And Arjun sent a message an hour ago about a new place near the office that does a very good South Indian lunch, and you have already said yes. And on Sunday at 7 p.m., your mother will call, and you will tell her about Edie and the chicken and the baking program. And she will say, "I told you it takes time, but it happens." And she will be right, and you will not tell her she is right, because that is the specific dynamic of your relationship with your mother, and it works perfectly. Here's what I want to tell you. To every person watching this who has packed 2 suitcases and gone somewhere new, who is sitting in an apartment in a city that is enormous and electric and does not know they exist yet, who is eating dinner alone and listening to the noise outside and feeling the specific quality of silence that comes from being surrounded by 8 million people and not yet knowing which ones are yours. This is the part nobody tells you about, not the practical part, the visa and the apartment and the subway map, not the exciting part, the skyline and the opportunity and the version of yourself you are going to become here. The part in between, the Tuesday nights, the Sunday calls, the quality of the silence. This part is real. It is not a failure, and it is not a phase, and it is not something you should be ashamed of or perform your way out of for the benefit of people back home who are watching to see how you are doing. It is just the middle part, and every story has a middle part. And the middle part is where most of the actual living happens, even when it does not feel that way. Edie took 2.5 years. Arjun took 18 months. You are at month 7. You are exactly where you should be. And somewhere in your building, in one of the lit windows you can see from your table, someone else is in their middle part too, eating their version of dal and rice, listening to the noise, feeling the silence. You are not as alone in this as the apartment makes it feel. You are never as alone in this as the apartment makes it feel. Knock on more doors. Say yes to more lunches. Go to more Thursday programs about things you know nothing about and develop strong opinions anyway. The city is waiting for you to let it in. It just needs you to open the door. If you have ever been a foreigner living alone in a new city, drop in the comments. What was the moment the city started to feel like yours? Because someone watching this right now is in month 2, and your answer is for them. Subscribe to Borrowed Lives. Every week, a different life. Every week, proof that the middle part is survivable. See you in the next Borrowed Life.